On the day of her own engagement, Chloe's fiancé knelt down to propose to her sister. Everyone waited to see her humiliated, but no one expected the man who would ultimately appear, the crown prince of a business empire whom no one in the city dared to offend, and he had come to marry her. Today was supposed to be the engagement ceremony between Chloe and Luke. However, Luke had failed to appear. He wasn't answering his phone, and there was no sign of him anywhere. As the ballroom began to buzz with whispers, Chloe took a microphone from a server, calmly raised her glass, and offered a gentle, sincere smile to the crowd. "I truly apologize, everyone. Perhaps my fiancé has some urgent business." Before she could finish her sentence, the other protagonist of the day's event finally arrived. Luke walked through the entrance holding hands with Chloe's older sister, Bella. Luke looked at Chloe and suddenly interrupted her. "I am so sorry." He let go of Bella's hand, tenderly pulled her into his arms, and walked toward Chloe. Reaching out, he said, "Please, give me the mic." Chloe set her glass down without a word, handed him the microphone, and took a step back. Luke gave her a curt nod, and then scanned the room, his voice filled with regret as he addressed the guests. "I'm sorry to everyone here, and to Miss Davis. I regret to announce that the engagement between myself and Chloe is cancelled. But here, in front of all of you, I want to declare that from beginning to end, there is only one woman I truly wish to marry." As soon as he finished, Luke turned to Bella and dropped to one knee. His voice was earnest as he asked,
Hey guys, today I've got a crazy drama story for you. On her own engagement day, Chloe's fiancé knelt down and proposed to her sister right in front of everyone. Her family expected her to just accept it, but Chloe had other plans. This one comes with a strong lesson. Never let people walk all over your kindness. Let's dive in.
"Bella, will you marry me?" Bella didn't answer immediately. She looked up at Chloe and then lowered her head, tears streaming down her face as if she were being torn apart inside. After all, this was no different from publicly stealing her younger sister's fiancé. Sensing her hesitation, Luke took her hand, his eyes full of gentle reassurance. The guests, who had been preparing to leave, turned back in curiosity. The murmurs grew louder. Wasn't the union between the Miller and the Davis families announced a long time ago? Why the change today? Bella rarely makes public appearances. Who knew she'd cause such a scene the moment she showed up? "I heard Luke liked Bella all along. Does this mean Bella is stealing her sister's man? I wonder if Chloe will cause a scene? Maybe not. They weren't married yet anyway. It's not that big a deal." No matter where you go, people have a natural talent for gossip. Chloe maintained a light smile and urged her sister on with apparent sincerity. "Bella, why are you just standing there? Hurry up and say yes." To Chloe's surprise, hearing this only made Bella cry harder. She kept her head down, shaking it and biting her lip in silence. Still kneeling, Luke finally lost his patience and glared at Chloe, his voice harsh with blame. "Chloe, stop tormenting Bella. If you have a grievance, take it out on me. She's innocent." Chloe stared at him, bewildered. She wondered what on earth this had to do with her. She bit her tongue for a moment, but finally she couldn't help herself. "Are you out of your mind?" The atmosphere in the banquet hall froze. Friends immediately surrounded Chloe, worried she would cause trouble, and tried to pull her away. "Chloe, don't be sad. We can talk later." "Chloe, are you okay? Let me take you somewhere to rest." Even her parents, Arthur and Sarah Davis, stepped forward to pat her shoulder, whispering their persuasion. "Your sister has given up everything for you since you were kids. She just wants someone to lean on. Be sensible for once and let her have this." Chloe remained silent. In other words, before she had even opened her mouth, they had already made the decision for her. She brushed off the hands of those pulling at her and let out a long sigh. All right. Have you all said enough? Can I say a few words now?" She took another microphone from a server and pushed the crowd aside. In the distance, Bella was leaning into Luke's chest, sobbing softly as she basked in the startled and suspicious gazes of the crowd. Chloe took 2 steps forward, her voice projected clearly through the ballroom speaker system, capturing every word with precision. "I sincerely give my blessings to my sister and Mr. Miller," Chloe said. "I hope you two find your happily ever after as the perfect couple you are." Upon hearing Chloe's voice, Bella lifted her head from Luke's arms, her eyes red and fresh tears streaming down her face. Chloe, however, had no interest in watching her sister continue the performance. She cleared her throat and continued, "At the same time, I would like to formally invite everyone." At that exact moment, the grand doors of the ballroom swung open. Someone walked in slowly, and the crowd instinctively parted to create a path. Gasps of shock erupted throughout the hall. "Isn't that the heir to the Sterling family? What is he doing here?" Don't tell me Mr. Sterling came just to watch the drama? Chloe stepped forward and looped her arm through the newcomers, flashing a bright smile. Next month, on the 21st, at the Serenity Estate. I invite you all to attend the engagement ceremony of myself and Silas Sterling. The entire hall fell into a dead silence. Unlike the Davis and Miller families who relied on their current status, the Sterling family possessed an ancient lineage and an incredibly high social standing. Silas Sterling himself had entered the business world at 20. With sharp, ruthless tactics, he had seized control of the city's major economic lifelines in just a few years. He was the one man no one dared to offend. Supported by Luke, Bella looked on in sheer shock. Chloe, don't talk nonsense. Mr. Sterling, he isn't someone we can just play jokes with. Chloe tilted her head, looking puzzled. Who's joking? Luke pulled Bella closer by the shoulder, shielding her. Chloe, what happened today is my fault. You can ask for whatever compensation you want, but you shouldn't get involved with the Sterlings. Chloe's father, Arthur, rushed out from the crowd, his face twisted with worry as he grabbed her arm. Chloe, don't be reckless. Do you even know who he is? Before Chloe could answer, Silas Sterling pulled her back 2 steps, putting distance between her and her father. Arthur followed hastily, apologizing while trying to reach for her again. Mr. Sterling, my daughter didn't mean any offense. Mr. Davis, it seems you've misunderstood something, Silas interrupted, his brow furrowing with displeasure. Chloe held the microphone out to him. Silas leaned down slightly, his deep, steady voice echoing through the hall. Since Chloe has extended the invitation, I would also welcome everyone's attendance. Next month, on the 21st, at the Serenity Estate, our engagement ceremony. He paused for a moment, took the microphone from her hand, and continued, By the way, congratulations to the eldest Miss Davis and Mr. Miller. I hope the 2 of you live happily ever after. Having finished, he let go. The microphone hit the floor with a heavy muffled thud. The ballroom remained silent for a heartbeat before exploding into a frenzy. The young socialites and heirs began whispering incessantly. Initially, everyone thought Chloe was the pathetic victim, but now, the situation seemed far more complex. It feels like Luke changing fiancés was a sudden whim, someone whispered. But it looks like Chloe was prepared all along. Isn't Serenity Estate a play on their names? Silas and Chloe? Don't even say it. Turns out we were just the audience for their little play. The chatter wasn't quiet, and Silas heard every bit of it. He seemed quite satisfied, tilting his head with a look of approval toward the gossiping crowd. Chloe couldn't help but pat his arm lightly. Tone it down a bit, will you? The following day at the Davis residence, Arthur and Sarah kept Silas in the living room to talk. Meanwhile, Chloe went to her room to pack her things, preparing to move into his house. The door was pushed open, and Bella walked in carrying a cup of coffee with a gentle smile on her face. Chloe, I made some coffee for you to try. Chloe's eyes drifted to the dark, uneven hickey marks scattered across Bella's neck. Now, Bella wasn't even bothering to hide them. I really admire you, sister, Chloe said dryly. Bella's step faltered as she entered the room, but she maintained her smile. Why is that? Chloe set down the clothes in her hand, reached for the phone on the desk right in front of Bella, turned it off, and tossed it onto the bed. Give me the phone. Bella hesitated, her expression shifting. What are you doing? Chloe blinked, giving her 2 choices. Turn it off, or get out. A few seconds later, the phone hidden in Bella's handbag, which had been recording the entire time, was pulled out and powered down. The bedroom door was then shut firmly. Bella's smile vanished, her voice turning icy. I've been curious since yesterday. How exactly did you manage to hook Silas Sterling? It seems you've got quite the bag of tricks yourself. Chloe shrugged. These little tricks of mine? They're nothing compared to yours, sister. Her parents, especially Arthur and Sarah, had treated Bella like a piece of fragile porcelain since she was a child. They never let her run, jump, go outside, or do anything remotely dangerous. For years, she had been kept like a prisoner in the house. Yet someone so heavily sheltered had somehow cultivated a heart full of cold calculation. Since the age of 5, Bella had been intentionally targeting Chloe, striving to snatch away everything she believed belonged to her, whether it was their parents' favoritism, the recognition of teachers and peers, or Chloe's fiancé, Luke. From faking illnesses and playing the victim to outright framing her, Bella had used every manipulative tactic in the book. Through those schemes, she had taken plenty from Chloe, even if Chloe didn't actually care for those things. But every time Bella won, she wore the smug look of a victor. In her mind, she truly believed she was a success. Thinking of this, Chloe's lips curled into a silent, mocking laugh. Well? Bella didn't follow up, instead taking a leisurely sip of her coffee. I spent over 10 minutes brewing this. It's not bad. You sure you don't want to taste? It's a pity. Yeah, Chloe echoed. What a pity. The room fell silent for a few seconds before Bella set the cup down. You can't marry Silas Sterling. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I'm not good enough for him. Yes, Bella nodded. Chloe shot back. And I suppose you are? Hitting a nerve, a flicker of panic flashed in Bella's eyes. However, she quickly regained her composed, virtuous facade and advised Chloe seriously. Silas Sterling's background is not something you can just reach for. I'm only saying this for your own good. That familiar excuse again, Chloe thought. For your own good. She sat on the edge of the bed, intentionally acting pensive for a few seconds. So is it that I'm not worthy, or is it that you want him for yourself? I already gave you Luke, isn't that enough? Bella instinctively snapped back. Luke and I are truly in love. She stopped abruptly, realizing she had walked right into a trap. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You said you gave him to me? Chloe looked at her and offered a thin smile, raising her hand to mockingly count on her fingers. Didn't you say you two are in love? Let me guess when this true love started. Was it at the engagement party 2 days ago, during those secret dates you've had for years? Or was it the night high school graduation ended? Crash. The sound of something heavy hitting the floor and the shattering of porcelain echoed loudly, startling the 3 people downstairs. Hearing the commotion, they rushed up immediately. Bella was slumped weakly on the floor of Chloe's room, clutching her stomach and moaning in pain. Her white loungewear was stained with coffee, and the shattered cup lay in pieces beside her. Chloe sat opposite her, quietly observing the scene without saying a word. The sight pierced Sarah's heart. Panicked and distressed, she hurried to help Bella up. What happened? Bella, honey, what's wrong? Mom? Bella opened her eyes weakly, tears streaming down her face. It hurts so much, Mom. Please don't blame Chloe. I just couldn't keep my balance. She didn't push me. Hearing that, Sarah's rage ignited instantly. She pointed a finger directly at Chloe. Chloe Davis, your sister is pregnant with your own niece or nephew. How dare you push her? Sarah grew more agitated as she spoke and lunged forward to slap Chloe. But unexpectedly, her legs gave way and she knelt straight down, collapsing right on top of Bella. The air in the room froze for a heartbeat. Chloe fought back a laugh. Sarah scrambled to her feet, clutching Bella tightly, and turned to scream at her husband. Arthur, what are you just standing there for? Call a doctor, quickly. This is a disaster. Arthur shouted in a panic, scrambling to head for the door. But at that moment, Silas Sterling, who was standing at the entrance, spoke up. There's no need to rush. His voice was deep and so calm that everyone instinctively froze. Arthur stopped in his tracks. Mr. Sterling, what do you mean by that? Silas didn't answer. He simply tilted his chin toward Chloe. Every eye in the room immediately shifted to her. Chloe stood up leisurely and clapped her hands together lightly. Did you all know? She asked the room. The best role my sister has ever played throughout her life is this exact scene. It's just a shame that today, the curtain has to fall on this performance. Sarah didn't understand. Her only concern was for Bella, and her anger boiled over. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? Why won't you let your father call a doctor? Do you want to kill your sister and her unborn child? Chloe frowned slightly and raised a hand to cover one ear. She glanced toward Silas. He tapped lightly on the doorframe, signaling Sarah to be silent. Rest easy, Mrs. Davis, he said. In this room, the person most concerned about something actually happening to Bella isn't you. Chloe picked up the thread. If something truly happened to Bella in my room, I'm the one who would have to deal with the consequences. I'm not nearly noble enough to let that happen. Sarah looked at her, her eyes full of suspicion. What exactly are you trying to do? Chloe picked up 2 phones from the bed and grabbed a third one that Silas had hidden behind the bookshelf. She held the screens up in front of them. Bella's sobbing stopped instantly, and a flash of pure panic crossed her face. Without another word, Chloe turned on a projector. The video that had just been recorded began to play. It captured everything from the moment Bella entered the room. Every word, every calculated expression, and the exact moment she splashed the coffee on herself, threw the cup, and staged her fall. Everything was crystal clear. The room fell into a total, absolute silence. Sarah stood there, stunned, while Arthur's face turned bright red with rage. Bella, what on earth are you doing? Bella trembled, clutching her mother's hand. No, it's not. I didn't. I'm done, Chloe interrupted, clapping her hands. I just wanted to reveal the truth. Whatever happens after this, I don't care. I'm leaving. She turned to go, but Bella suddenly lunged at her, her weakness forgotten. Chloe, you did this on purpose. You want to ruin me. You want to steal everything from me. You're a... Slap! Sarah's hand struck Bella across the face. The room went silent again. Bella stood frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief. How did you become like this? Sarah asked, her voice shaking. Bella clutched her cheek, tears falling in thick droplets. You're hitting me because of her? I only wanted Luke. What did I do wrong? Chloe looked at her and offered a small smile. That's the first time you've ever been hit, isn't it? How does it feel? To the naked eye, Bella's face was turning from a ghostly pale to a sickly shade of green, with the bright red mark of a handprint blooming on her skin. The sight was truly a bit ridiculous. Chloe couldn't help herself and laughed out loud. It's fine if you can't find the words, Chloe said. This performance is over. The rest is between all of you. I'm no longer interested in dealing with it. Arthur ordered Bella back to her room. With looks of utter embarrassment, her parents walked Chloe and Silas to the door. Just as they reached the car, Sarah held onto the door, lightly tugging at Chloe's sleeve. Chloe didn't say a word. Silas narrowed his eyes, pulled Chloe into the car, and leaned over to block Sarah's path. His tone was perfectly sincere. Mrs. Davis, if your eldest daughter ever decides she wants to go into acting, feel free to contact me. He paused for a moment, drawing out his words. After all, I think she has a natural gift for it. Sarah froze, her hand on Chloe's sleeve trembling. She couldn't say a single word. Chloe looked up and caught a final glimpse of her mother as the car door closed. Chloe then withdrew her gaze, looking down as she waved slightly. We're leaving now, Mom. Hearing her call her mom seemed to offer Sarah some small measure of comfort. She forced a smile and waved back weakly. Right, take care. The car door closed and the tinted glass cut off the sight of Sarah's heartbroken expression. Chloe finally let out a long sigh of relief. It wasn't just that their realization had come too late. In the end, it was simply late. From the time they were children, Bella had performed acts like today's more times than Chloe could count. How much cunning could a child really have? When they were small, Bella hadn't been able to hide every flaw in her schemes, but her parents' favoritism had been so deep that even their eyes and ears were biased. They only saw and heard what they wanted to see and hear. Because of that, they had repeatedly ignored Chloe's cries for help to protect Bella, the one who appeared weaker. Fortunately, that was all in the past, and fortunately, Chloe had long since stopped caring. Once they arrived at the Sterling residence, Chloe intended to catch up on some sleep. Last night had brought an unexpected turn. Arthur hadn't been able to wait even a single day. As soon as he confirmed that the engagement between Chloe and Silas was real, he had rushed to call, demanding that Chloe bring Silas home for a meal the next day. Everyone knew it wasn't just about the food. They knew exactly what he was after. Chloe didn't want to deal with the nauseating atmosphere of a family dinner, so she had dragged Silas there early in the morning, hoping to avoid lunch entirely. Luckily, Bella hadn't disappointed her. She had lent a helping hand, allowing Chloe to leave early. Now, with the spring weather so beautiful, it felt like a waste not to sleep. But just as she lay down on the bed, someone refused to let her rest and pressed closer. Feeling sleepy? Chloe buried her face in the comforter, her voice muffled. A moment later, the bed dipped slightly. Silas reached out and pulled her directly into his arms. Forced out of the blankets, her view shifted until a perfect face appeared right before her eyes. So close she could feel his breath. You lost the bet? You're not planning to back out, are you? The bet. It was a wager on the patience of her parents regarding their golden son-in-law. Chloe had boldly claimed they could wait at least a week, but the results spoke for themselves. Thinking about what she had promised as the stake, her ears turned hot involuntarily. Is it really appropriate to talk about this in broad daylight? She asked. Silas narrowed his eyes, his tone lazy but carrying a hint of pressure. You aren't actually going to cheat me out of my win, are you? Of course not, she started, but before she could finish the last word, he leaned down and silenced her with a deep kiss. Chloe never had much resistance against Silas's kisses. By the time he pulled away, she was so breathless that the corners of her eyes were slightly damp. I'm tired, she panted, her voice husky. I'm really, really sleepy. But Silas pressed close again, lightly nipping at her lower lip. I'll sleep with you. Chloe gasped, trying to push him away. Move back a little. Silas yielded to her push and lay down beside her, letting out a soft sigh. Go to sleep. Once you've had enough rest, we have a good show to watch. 3 days later, Luke announced that he would be reholding the engagement ceremony with Bella. An invitation was even delivered personally to Silas Sterling. He tapped the card against Chloe's hand, raising an eyebrow with a faint smirk. Let's go. Time to see the show. So this is the good show you were talking about? Chloe laughed as she took the invitation. It was indeed something to look forward to. The Maybach pulled up in front of the banquet hall. Silas stepped out first, walked around the front of the car, and opened the door for her. Chloe reached out, hooked her arm through his, and walked inside. This time, the engagement party was far more extravagant than the previous one. Not only had they chosen a larger ballroom, but the media had also been invited. Chloe scanned the room and let out a soft exclamation. True love indeed. Compared to my party, they certainly went through a lot more trouble for this one. Hearing that, Silas let out a soft, knowing curl of his lip. As the story continues, what kind of drama do you think Silas has in store for Luke and Bella at the party? Silas's eyes swept over the surroundings, his expression unimpressed. And you call this going through a lot of trouble? Chloe laughed softly, offering a casual compliment. It's decent enough, I suppose. The venue was indeed packed. It wasn't just the usual crowd of heirs, socialites, and CEOs huddled in conversation. There were also celebrities and influencers standing out with their polished looks. However, Chloe knew better than most that an invitation from the Davis or Miller families wasn't enough to draw this kind of crowd on its own. She felt a flicker of doubt. Had there been some major move by these two families recently that she didn't know about? Fortunately, it didn't take long for her question to be answered. From the moment she and Silas entered the hall, the gaze of almost everyone in the room shifted toward them. Not far away, several people were already swirling their wine glasses, clearly waiting for an opportunity to strike up a conversation with him. She lightly tapped his arm. If you look at it that way, this party is only shining because of you. Silas had it all: wealth, looks, and a background that commanded respect. That was why he was known as the Crown Prince. But over the years, he had kept his reputation spotless, avoiding scandals and rarely attending parties. The sudden appearance of a fiancé had naturally sent shockwaves through high society. After doing some digging, they had discovered Chloe was a Davis, and that Bella was her biological sister. Since Chloe was bound to show up at this engagement party, everyone present was betting on the chance that she might bring Silas along. After all, this was a rare opportunity to get close to him. Just then, Luke emerged from the crowd, carrying a wine glass and wearing a smile. Chloe, Mr. Sterling. A server quickly brought over 2 glasses. Chloe took one and raised it as a courtesy. Congratulations. It wasn't clear exactly what she was congratulating them for, but Luke didn't seem to mind. He simply nodded, took a sip of his wine, and turned back to the crowd. Chloe set her glass down. Looking around, she saw Silas being pulled into conversation by several familiar-looking CEOs. She shook her head with a faint smile. He really can't get a moment's peace. She found a secluded corner and tried to ignore the eyes following her, leisurely swirling her glass and nibbling on some pastries, taking an occasional sip. When she saw that nearly all the guests had arrived, she leaned her head on her hand against the table, pretending to be drowsy. As expected, the person who had been watching her finally couldn't resist approaching. She felt someone supporting her. Miss, are you all right? Let me take you upstairs to rest. Chloe closed her eyes, the corners of her lips curling upward slightly. It looks like the real show is about to begin. A waitress led her into a room, gently helping her out of her outer layers and thoughtfully tucking her under a blanket before quietly slipping out. Once the sound of footsteps faded, Chloe immediately sat up, fumbled for her dress, and put it back on. The room was eerily quiet, the lighting very dim. The waitress had also taken her phone. As Chloe's eyes adjusted to the darkness, she walked around to inspect the space. The room was unnaturally tidy. There wasn't even a wardrobe, and there was nowhere to hide. The only door, she suspected, would not be easy to open. Giving up on the idea of hiding, Chloe sat on the sofa by the window and lightly rubbed her shoulder. Guess what she has planned for me? She whispered. A small electronic blip sounded in her earpiece, followed by Silas's cold voice. It's something to look forward to. After all, she isn't going to go easy on you. Chloe stood up, pulled the blanket off the bed, and wrapped it around herself. What a heartbreaking conclusion. Silas gave a soft huff. Heartbreaking enough that I'm almost laughing. Chloe laughed, but didn't reply. She was truly looking forward to seeing what kind of trick Bella would pull today. Just then, there was a sound at the door. She immediately tightened her grip on the blanket and looked toward the entrance. The door opened slowly, and the light from the hallway made her squint. 2 male figures slipped inside, accompanied by the sound of shuffling. They seemed to be taking off their clothes. A raspy voice urged, "Hurry up. We leave as soon as the photos are taken." Another lower voice sounded hurried. I know. The 2 men didn't turn on the lights, they simply fumbled their way toward the bed. Chloe curled up on the sofa, burying herself deeper into the blanket. In her head, she slowly started a countdown. 5, 4, 3. The two intruders suddenly stopped, looking around in confusion. "Wait, where is she? There's nobody here?" one of them hissed. "Wasn't she supposed to be lying on the bed?" "Turn on the light and check." 2, 1. Time was up. The bedroom door burst open, and light flooded the room. Chloe immediately pulled the blanket over her eyes to avoid seeing anything inappropriate. A split second later, the sound of a light switch clicking echoed through the room. Silas's voice was as cold as ice. "Oh? Are you two in the middle of an artistic nude photo shoot?" Silas's men dragged the two intruders out into the hallway, while Silas pulled Chloe out from under the blanket and carried her out in his arms. The two men, who had scrambled to throw their server uniforms back on, were now kneeling on the floor. A miniature camera dangled from the neck of one of them. Chloe looked away and asked Silas to put her down. She stepped toward the men. "Who sent you?" The two shared a look for a few seconds before speaking up decisively. "It was the eldest Miss Davis. She told us to take some indecent photos of you. She specifically requested that the second Miss Davis's face be clearly visible. We were just following orders. Please, Mr. Sterling, if you could." Chloe offered a polite, thin smile, then turned to leave. "Silas, call the police." For years, Bella had been used to standing over Chloe, used to Chloe always yielding to her. The day Chloe returned to the Davis house had caused Bella a painful fall, even forcing her to leave the house in the middle of the night. How could Bella possibly swallow that pride and leave Chloe in peace? Unsurprisingly, she hadn't held back in her retaliation. Downstairs, the party had officially begun, and the atmosphere was growing more lively by the minute. On the massive screen at the back of the stage, a slideshow of Luke and Bella's childhood sweetheart memories was playing. In many of the frames, Chloe was clearly visible too. Quite a few of those photos had been taken back when Luke was still actively pursuing Chloe. She didn't know what excuse Bella had used or what opportunity she had seized to snap those pictures, but now they had all been repurposed into sweet memories between Bella and Luke. It was truly fascinating. At the corner of the stage, the piano began to play a dreamlike wedding march, blending with the blessings filling the hall. Silas stood behind Chloe, wrapping his arms around her waist. "She is certainly going to love your return gift." Chloe looked down, watching Bella's radiant, happy face on the screen. She let out a soft sigh. "I didn't originally plan to give her anything. It's a pity my sister is so naive. She's charging straight toward the abyss without leaving herself a single way out. Perhaps I've indulged her too much over the years, which made her this foolish." On the big screen, photos from Luke and Bella's engagement ceremony continued to play. The host invited the couple to the stage. Hand in hand, Bella and Luke smiled affectionately at each other before turning to face the guests, preparing to give their speech. But at that exact moment, an unexpected conversation erupted from the speakers on both sides of the stage. It was the voices of Chloe and Silas, the conversation they had just moments ago. The screen remained dark for a second, but the audio was so clear that it was impossible to ignore. Chloe's voice asked softly through the surveillance device in her earring, "Guess what she's planned for me?" Then, at the very end, the server's voice rang out. It was the eldest Miss Davis. "She hired us to take photos of the second Miss Davis with another man in a compromising position. She specifically requested that the second Miss Davis's face be clearly visible. We were just following orders." On stage, Bella's face turned deathly pale. She immediately grabbed Luke's arm, intending to run and shut off the screen. "Who is in charge of this? Turn it off. What is this? Turn it all off right now." But it was already too late. Silas's people had already barricaded the entrance to the control room. The screen continued to flicker with a new scene. This time it was inside Chloe's bedroom. She was shown packing her belongings when Bella walked in, coffee cup in hand. The moment the cup shattered was replayed for everyone to see. The video cut to black just after Chloe stepped closer to the camera lens. The entire hall fell into a deathly silence for a long moment before a wave of chaotic murmurs erupted. Bella collapsed, her body going limp as tears streamed down her face. Luke knelt beside her, pulling her into his arms, his face a mask of pure shock. Chloe let go of the railing and leaned back lazily into Silas's chest. "I almost forgot," she asked nonchalantly. "What comes next?" The screen stayed dark for 3 seconds. Then Bella's voice rang out even before the picture appeared. "I really love this trophy, Chloe." As the image sharpened, a younger Bella from several years ago was shown holding a crystal trophy, admiring it meticulously. However, even a quick glance revealed that the name engraved on the trophy wasn't Bella's. it was Chloe's. It was her prize. In the video, Chloe was sitting on the sofa, completely ignoring her sister. But Bella disregarded the cold shoulder, raised her hand, and slammed the trophy onto the floor. As it shattered, she let out a small cry of surprise. She turned to Chloe with a look of feigned panic. "Chloe, I'm so sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have been so curious. Please don't be mad." A second later, Arthur and Sarah appeared, instantly rushing to Bella's side. Bella immediately pretended to defend Chloe. "It's not Chloe's fault. I shouldn't have touched the trophy. She didn't mean to throw it at me. Mom, Dad, please don't be mad at her." Her words were like pouring gasoline on a fire. Sarah pointed a finger at Chloe, her voice thick with rage. "I truly don't understand how I gave birth to a child like you. That is your own sister." The screen continued its playback for the entire hall to see. The media members had long since lost their composure. Live streams were launched, and camera flashes strobed incessantly. The guests who had previously swarmed around Bella and Luke now quietly backed away, maintaining a visible distance. Good grief, is that really her own sister? What kind of parents are they? You can know a person's face but never their heart. How could they live under the same roof and not see through this? Wasn't he engaged to the younger sister first? Why the switch? Maybe she was so jealous she just had to steal him. This is chilling. The gossip grew louder and louder. An engagement ceremony that was supposed to be warm and celebratory had transformed into a public execution for Bella. She sat flat on the floor, frantically clutching Luke's hand, begging him to pull her away. But Luke was stunned, staring blankly without a single reaction. Feeling abandoned, Bella angrily shoved him away, causing him to stumble and fall. Arthur and Sarah were surrounded by the crowd, unable to reach her. Sensing the situation was spiraling out of control, Bella resorted to her old trick. Her body began to sway, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. The guests instinctively backed further away, terrified of being held responsible. The scene devolved into total chaos. Silas took a microphone and tapped it twice. Thump, thump. The low, resonant sound captured everyone's attention. "Everyone," he began. Every eye in the room immediately fixed on the two of them. He held the microphone to Chloe's lips. She glanced at the screen, her voice calm and steady. I hope today's program didn't disappoint anyone." Chloe paused for a moment, her gaze landing on Bella. "I wonder if you're satisfied, sister?" Bella was shaken awake by the words. Seemingly backed into a corner, she glared at Chloe, her voice dripping with hatred. "Chloe, it's you! Are you insane? Do you want to destroy me?" Chloe offered a faint smile and followed up slowly. "Destroy you? Force you to the edge of death?" She let out a small laugh, genuinely finding it ironic. "Isn't that the line you've loved saying the most for the last 20 years? Throughout their lives, every time Chloe achieved something, Bella would pull her aside and whisper, "I truly admire you, Chloe, but why do you have everything while I have nothing?" Then she would throw Chloe's trophies and medals onto the floor, stomping them into dust before feigning fragility. "You've stolen everything from me. You're driving me to my death." But in reality, Bella never wanted to die. She only wanted Chloe to vanish or to have never existed at all. Chloe let out a soft sigh. "Oh, Bella, with someone like you, what right do you have to think I would ever be a good little sister?" There were times when Chloe wondered what it would be like if Bella were the one pushed until there was no way out, smothered until she couldn't breathe. The thought flickered through her mind, carrying a trace of madness and a cold chill, but she quickly suppressed it. Meanwhile, the livestream continued. The camera lights, the chatter, and the frantic energy intertwined, making the atmosphere more chaotic by the second. Chloe swallowed those inappropriate thoughts, adjusted her emotions, and smiled thinly. Her tone was calm yet distant. "In any case, today is your engagement day." At that moment, Silas Sterling's secretary appeared, carrying an exquisite box. He walked with a steady, firm stride toward Arthur and Sarah Davis. The eyes of the crowd were instantly drawn to him. Chloe softened her voice, making it sound more gentle, as if she were offering a sincere blessing. "Actually, I had originally prepared a different gift." The box was opened. Lying neatly inside was the deed to a luxury villa, along with a pre-signed transfer contract. With a single signature, the property would change hands immediately. Among the crowd, those in the know recognized the documents instantly, and waves of whispers broke out. "Oh my God, is that a house in the Serene Heights district? There's no mistake. It's Serene Heights. You can't just buy a place there with money. You need connections and status to get in. The younger Miss Davis is incredibly generous." Arthur's eyes lit up instantly. A look of greed, almost impossible to hide, washed over his face. He instinctively reached out, wanting to take the stack of papers. just as his fingers were about to touch them. Click. The box was snapped shut. The sound wasn't loud, but it was clear enough to make everyone freeze. Chloe's movement was light but decisive. She tilted her head slightly, her lips curving into a smile that carried a hint of apology and regret, yet showed no intention of changing her mind. This was supposed to be a gift, she paused, looking Arthur straight in the eye. But unfortunately, now it can only be considered compensation. Each word was clear, delivered at a measured pace. Chloe handed the closed box back to the secretary as if it had never existed. Sarah had been reduced to tears at some point. She looked at Chloe with a mixture of heartbreak, regret, and confusion. Her voice trembled, nearly a whisper. Chloe? Chloe didn't look at her or respond. She simply let her gaze drift toward Bella. Her sister had completely lost control. Her face was as white as paper, her lips were trembling, and her eyes were blank and hollow, as if her entire world had collapsed. Chloe offered a faint smile, the exact same smile she had worn years ago. Back then, when she was being manipulated and gaslit by Bella bit by bit, Chloe had spoken with that same face and that same sincere tone. She had said, "Sister, I'm sorry. This won't happen again." Back then, she had apologized because she valued their sisterhood, because she was willing to step back, and because she wanted to preserve the last bit of warmth in what they called a family. Back then, she had apologized because she didn't want to see Bella collapse. But today, she apologized for herself. Because with her own hands, she had utterly demolished the facade of happiness Bella had clung to for so many years. Every grudge between them, everything that had accumulated over 20 years, ended here. The two engagement ceremonies concluded in total disaster. There were no blessings and no applause. There was only chaos, alongside countless prying eyes and wagging tongues. Chloe and Silas once again dominated the headlines. Stories that had previously been hidden or suppressed were unearthed, one by one, down to the smallest detail. But this time, the narrative had flipped completely. The younger Miss Davis kept the receipts. "One strike, total kill. This is straight out of a revenge thriller," one headline read. Another social media post buzzed. "She's not some tragic heroine. She's a certified queen of shadows. She caused a riot, and look at Mr. Sterling standing behind her. That gaze is terrifying, but also so sweet." Chloe's phone vibrated incessantly. The calls were constant, all from the Davis house. But she didn't answer a single one. She didn't see anyone until the police arrived to investigate the unauthorized photography incident. That was when she ran into Luke again. He stood at her door. No longer the polished man he used to be. He looked haggard, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. One of the Davis family's companies had collapsed, the Miller family had been dragged into the mess, and everything had fallen onto his shoulders, but he had never possessed the strength to carry such a weight. "Bella's been hospitalized," he said, his voice raspy. Chloe raised her hand and cut him off immediately. "Stop. I don't want to hear it." She moved to shut the door, but he held it open. "Chloe, I didn't mean for this to happen. That night, I was planning to confess my feelings to you. I was drunk. I don't know why it ended up being Bella." Chloe stood behind the door. She didn't look at him, simply offering a cold, faint smile. "Are you finished?" He faltered. Chloe continued. "Did you never stop to think why that night turned out the way it did?" His expression changed drastically. "What do you mean?" Chloe took 2 steps back, her eyes calm and unwavering. "The drug in your wine? I had someone put it there. The message setting up the meeting? I made sure Bella saw it. Even the room where you two stayed together? I prepared that too." Each word was clear and unvarnished. Luke was completely stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief. "But I liked you. Why? Why?" Chloe laughed as he trembled. "What does you liking me have to do with me?" She looked directly at him, her words cutting like a blade. "From the very beginning, I found you repulsive. I never liked you, not even a little. Back then, just the thought of having to marry you kept me awake all night." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to destroy him completely. She smiled thinly. "I simply returned you to Bella. I wish the two of you a lifetime of happiness." She closed the door without a second of hesitation. To avoid being dragged down, the Miller family immediately retreated, severing all ties with the Davis family. The Davis empire, which was already hollowed out from the inside, collapsed completely with just one final push. Arthur and Sarah Davis vanished from the public eye. Bella was diagnosed with severe depression accompanied by delusions and was sent to a sanitarium in the suburbs. Silas Sterling reclaimed all related assets, and the Davis companies were taken over by his firm. The villa Chloe had once prepared to give them was eventually used as collateral. It was the last thing she left them, their final way out. Once everything concluded, Chloe could finally relax. To her surprise, Invitations from various prominent families continued to flood in. Everyone wanted to get to Silas through her. Fortunately, he refused them all and took her directly to the Sterling estate. In the living room, a silver-haired, elderly woman glared at Chloe. "Who is this girl? I don't know her." Chloe immediately ran over and took her arm. "Grandma, it's me, Chloe." The old woman turned her face away. "I don't remember. I was busy handling some business, so I arrived late." Chloe continued to coax her gently. Hearing that, the woman gripped Chloe's hand, her gaze softening. "Don't let anyone bully you anymore." Chloe nodded. "I won't, Grandma." The engagement day for Chloe and Silas took place at the Serenity estate. There was no media and no outsiders, only family. White flowers blanketed the space. As Chloe walked in, Silas took her hand and led her forward. His grandmother held the microphone, her voice tender. "Chloe, welcome home." Chloe opened a box containing a jade bangle, and tears she couldn't hold back began to fall. Silas reached out to wipe them away, his voice warm. "From now on, you never have to step aside again." Chloe looked at him and nodded softly. No more stepping aside. After 10 years, she could finally choose her own life. Not for anyone else, but for herself.
And that's the end of the story. Biggest takeaway? Stop tolerating unfair treatment even from family. Know your worth and stand up for yourself. What did you think of Chloe's revenge? Drop a comment below. If you liked it, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.